One thing in sports that we talk about a lot is momentum and how important it is, how dangerous it is to play against, how dangerous it is to play or to lose. Momentum is important in sports. Momentum, you can see it. Some things that are intangible, it's hard to see a lot of times. Like sometimes it is hard to see the value of something when it's not blatant, when it's not in your face. Sometimes it's hard to you can't really see air. The only time you can see air is when it's cold and the air is coming from your breath. But even that, like you can't really see air, but we know how valuable it is. Momentum is like that in sports. And not as much when we talk about Texas and Arizona State, not as much when we talk about Penn State and Boise State, not even as much as when we talk about Notre Dame and Georgia. If you want to know exactly how momentum affects a team, how rust affects a team, look no further than the Ohio State-Oregon game. Now, I know you're probably going to hear me and you're thinking that I'm coming from a place of I'm probably hating because people know I'm an Oregon fan and I had Oregon winning the national championship. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. And while, yes, there are feelings that I have seeing my squad get bounced out their first game of the playoffs, this is one of the biggest reasons why I was adamant in my dislike of the format of the college football playoffs. All the credit in the world goes to Ohio State. Ohio State proved that when they are firing on all cylinders, and they proved this majority of the season, when they're firing on all cylinders, they are one of, if not the best team in college basketball or college football. With the players that they have, with the coaching staff, they have one of the most expensive, when we talk about NIL, they have one of the most expensive teams. When they're firing on all cylinders, it's almost unstoppable. And I talked ad nauseum about my gripes with Oregon being a number one seed and how they placed it. Now, to the college football playoffs credit, you can't predict Ohio State being a 7th or 8th seed or Tennessee being a 9th seed. You would hope that those teams that obviously was projected higher coming into the season, you would hope that they play themselves into a better seed. But in that game, one of the biggest fears, I'll say, as a fan, one of the biggest fears I had as a watcher is how it looks when you're playing against, or how a team that just played, that could or could not be rolling, goes up against a team that has been sitting for about 2.5 weeks. And we saw it. We saw a team at Ohio State that had, if you needed anything to be ironed out, if you needed that momentum ball to get rolling, they got it out the way against Tennessee. Because when it came to Oregon, they were firing on all cylinders. Outside of Oregon, they had to get their juices rolling in game. And as we saw, when you going against momentum, Ohio State scored the quickest 30 points I've seen in a while. And It's not like they were long drives. It was 3 play drives and a touchdown. It was 2 play drives and a touchdown. It just Oregon could not get it going the first half. They chose the absolute worst time to have their worst half of the season. Now, this isn't just me talking about Oregon. This isn't just me having a gripe with Oregon and their road and not talk. We saw it almost everywhere. We saw it at the Texas Arizona State game to a certain extent. We saw it with the Boise State Penn State. We saw it with Notre Dame and Georgia. I don't know if Georgia would have went differently if Carson Beck played, but I do know that they looked rusty going in. Now, again, you could say it's because they had a first start quarterback in Stockton, but still, there's nothing that you can do. I'm not the layout. I have my gripes about how the number 1 seed was seeded and who they had to go against. Yeah. Me being an Oregon fan. Yeah. I don't think that there's too many teams, because I know a lot of people are saying, well, there's too many teams. No. And I'm not upset with it as far as how the layout is. What I just don't like is how every other sport, the number 1 seed at least gets the easiest path to the play. That's why in the NFL they reseed after round 1. So whoever's the number 1 seed in the NFC and AFC, they're going to play the lower seed that wins, because they are rewarded for being the number 1 seed, as well as getting a first week bye, first round bye, and you're playing at home. It sucks, man. It sucks, man. Oregon, bro. I thought this was the year, man. They chose the worst time to have the worst half. Because the second half wasn't as bad, you know. You score before the half, and then you score but then at that point the lead is insurmountable. They lost 41-21. And all the other games were, and while I said that Oregon is the perfect example and not really the other ones, even though you can say the other, Arizona State, you can say that they also suffered from rust. I think that the reason why I'm focusing on Ohio State and Oregon isn't just because I'm an Oregon fan. It's because, to me, those teams were the 2 teams that a lot of people thought looked eye to eye. They played each other in the regular season in Oregon, and Oregon won by 1 point, both in the Big Ten. Skill-wise, you look, even though I know one's an 8 seed and one was a 1 seed, you looked and you said, those 2 look at each other eye to eye. You didn't really feel that way with Texas and Arizona State, even though Arizona State made it a great game. Shouts out to Scatapoo. Arizona State, I do think, you don't like saying that one play dictated a game, but I do think that we may be talking about a different team representing themselves in the Final Four if the refs would have called the blatant targeting. And here's the thing. I don't think, obviously you hope that a ref gets it right every time. You're paying that person to get it right. I think the most frustrating thing, it's not the fact that you get it right or wrong. That is what it is. People are human. Mistakes happen. I think it's the inconsistency of how things are called. Because if you look at the game, if you look at the Arizona State game before Texas, one of their players was hit with a targeting penalty. which caused him to miss the first half of the game against Texas. And that same exact play happened in the Texas-Arizona State game. However, this time, it was the Texas player targeting an Arizona State player. Now, you can say he didn't mean to lead with the crown of his head. He didn't mean to make contact. But you cannot say that he didn't hit a defenseless receiver. And Arizona State was driving at that time. If they would, for possibly the game-winning drive, if they would have called that targeting, it would have been like Arizona State 1st and 10 at the Texas 39. Arizona State had all the momentum, but that moment zapped the momentum out of Arizona State. Now, yes, they lost in, triple overtime? I think it was like 31-39 or 34-39 or something like that. But going into it, you didn't think that Arizona State was on the same level as Texas. At least a lot of people didn't. And I will say shout out to Arizona State for proving us wrong. You know who didn't prove us wrong, though? Boise State and Penn State. Now, Boise State can hang their head on having an incredible season. This is the inaugural 12-team playoff, and they found themselves as a 3 seed. They have Ashton Jeanty, who was a Heisman finalist. Going into this game, he had an opportunity of breaking the all-time rushing record in one season from a running back. And they really have nothing to hang their hat on or like to feel down about. You went up against a Penn State team that, in all intents and purposes, should not have been a 6 seed. But Penn State showed Boise State the difference between a complete team and having a great player. Boise State is, at least this year, it was Ashton Jeanty and didn't have much else. And Penn State showed that. And again, shouts out to Notre Dame. When you're playing against a team that you may think you're better than, when you're playing against a team that at least record-wise you may be eye to eye with, you cannot make mistakes. Because mistakes get magnified, especially when you don't have your entire arsenal. When you're out your starting quarterback, that leaves a lot less room. So when you have two fumbles and you have a player on the sideline making contact with a ref, it just gets magnified. Look, I'm not going to say that the top 4 teams in the country are still playing. I think if you did some shuffling, did some reseeding, I think the top 4 teams in the country, 2 of them are gone. But that is a testament to, and shouts out to Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, and Penn State. They were able to win, and now we will see the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl. I will say this, though. Obviously, the inconsistency, it's always an up and down thing with Will Howard, the quarterback of Ohio State. But that Ohio State that we saw play Tennessee and the Ohio State, at least in the first half, that we saw against Oregon. If Ohio State plays to the best of their ability, there's not a team on this planet in college football that can beat that team. But shouts out to them, man. I'm excited to see, because I think Notre Dame and Penn State are kind of eye to eye. Like they're I don't really see much difference between them. They have different styles, sort of, but I'm interested to see that game in Texas. Texas hasn't played its best all playoffs. Maybe they'll get it done. Their defense might get it done with Ohio State. I don't know, but shouts out to Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, and Penn State for making it past the round. Oh, man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.